according to my bracket, who I think the top 5 players that are going to ball out in March Madness. And again, when I say ball out, most of these guys I've got either in the final, like in the final 4. So you're going to see them for 5, 6, 7 games. And here's a hint. I've got Darius Acuff not on the list, even though I think he's awesome, even though I think he might actually be the best college basketball player in the country, considering Arkansas doesn't have a ton of scoring talent around him. What Darius Acuff has done this year for Coach Calipari and the Razorbacks has been phenomenal. I think Arkansas is losing in the second round. So Darius Acuff might score 40 against Hawaii. He might score 40 in a loss against Wisconsin. But I think you're only going to see 2 games from Darius Acuff. We'll see. I could be wrong. But according to the picks that I have in my bracket and the teams that I have going the furthest, you're going to see these players the most. You're going to be able to learn about them even more if you haven't been watching a ton of college hoops. So here is my top 5 players that will ball out in the big dance. Let's start with number 5. And this is the team that I got winning the championship. But the Arizona Wildcats are a very balanced bunch. They don't really have one dominant scorer. Now, there's guys that step up and dominate game by game. Braden Berries is their leading scorer at 16 points. Jaden Bradley was one of the best players in the Big 12 this year. He only averages 13 points. Koa Pete, their star freshman, averages 13 points. All 5 starters average double figures, but Braden Berries is the leading scorer at 16 points. And yet, I'm going to give you a guy that comes off the bench. That is their 7th leading scorer, because I think this guy is freaking dynamite. I think he's a firecracker waiting to happen. The Aussie Italian coming off the bench from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Number 5 for me is Anthony Del Orso, their senior. Because I think every game I've watched Arizona play, this guy comes off the bench and he just hits dagger 3 after dagger 3. He had 6 triples in the Big 12 semifinal game against Iowa State. He had 26 points. Now, granted, in the championship game against Houston, he only scored 4, so it might be a little feast or famine for Anthony Del Orso, the Italian Aussie. But, look, he might, if Arizona wins the national championship, maybe he only has one big game until the title game. But if my bracket's correct and Arizona wins the title game, I think Anthony Del Orso, their 6th man coming off the bench, their senior, is going to play a massive role. He had 22 points in the regular season when they took down Houston. He had 22 points in a win against BYU earlier this year. He's got 4 games this season scoring 20 or more points. So he's more than capable. And when you see this guy, if you see his season averages, when they show him, they show his graphic during March Madness, and you're saying, wow, only 9 points per game, and he's got 23 tonight. He's capable of it. He's capable of going for 5 or 6 threes on any given game. It's off the bench, and it's instant offense for Arizona. And if there's a couple of games this year where they need that desperately, I think Anthony Del Orso will deliver. So he's number 5 for me on my list of players that will ball out in March Madness this year. Number 4, he's a first-team All-American. He's one of the best players in the country, and you're going to hear that basically about all these guys. It's Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan. That's who I have at number 4. And if you didn't know much about Yaxel Lendeborg, the senior from Pennsauken, New Jersey represent. If you didn't know much about him before this weekend and you watched the Big Ten Championship, you watched the Big Ten Tournament, well, you saw him hit the buzzer beater 3 against Wisconsin in the semifinal to send the Wolverines to the Big Ten Championship game, where even though they lost to Purdue, Yaxel Lendeborg had 20 points and 5 rebounds. He's 6'9". He can shoot the 3. Great defender, good passer as well. He averages over 3 assists, shoots 51% from the field, knocks down his free throws. Great defender all around, can block shots as well. And I think for a Michigan team that, like Arizona, is very balanced, they don't really have, one dominant go-to scorer. They need somebody to hit a clutch shot for them. That's why Yaxel Lendeborg took the game winner, the buzzer beater against Wisconsin. He's got the ice in his veins. Again, his last 2 years at UAB, you knew this kid wasn't going to stay with the UAB Dragons. He ends up on Michigan. They've been a top 3 team in the country all season long, and he is a big reason why. In the regular season finale against Michigan State, he had 27 points. In the first game against Michigan State, he had 26 points and 12 rebounds. In some of the biggest games this year, this kid has stepped up and delivered. In the loss against Duke, he had 21 points and 7 rebounds. He's phenomenal. I cannot wait to watch him. I cannot wait to watch Michigan. I think they go to the Final Four. And so Yaxel Lendeborg, number 4 for me. I can't wait. I hope that is the Final Four game, Arizona, Michigan. I think that might end up being the best game of the tournament if we get both those 1 seeds going up against each other. All right, number 3. And here's the one, I guess you would say, asterisk on this list, because this is a team that unfortunately I don't have going, making a deep, deep run. I got them in the Sweet 16, but across 3 games that you watch Nick Boyd play for the Wisconsin Badgers, you're going to fall in love with this kid. If you don't know him by now, get ready because he is electric. You know, again, in that game, in that loss against Michigan, he was brilliant. He was phenomenal. Even though he didn't score a ton and he struggled to shoot the basketball, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 5 steals. 5 steals. He's not just all offense, even though he averages 20 and a half points per game to go with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. He's a great defender as well. But I feel bad. I've been talking up this Wisconsin team for weeks. I think they're so dangerous. And if they were in any other region, I would have had him in the Final Four. And he might have been number 1 on my list of players in March Madness that are going to ball out. But they're in Arizona's region. And I got Arizona winning the title. So I think Wisconsin gives the Arizona Wildcats a hell of a game in the Sweet 16, but I think that's where they fall. And I think that second round game, you know, that I previously mentioned, I left Darius Acuff off my list. You get Wisconsin, Arkansas in the second round. Nick Boyd, Darius Acuff, that is must-watch TV. Those are 2 future NBA guards going at it, and they're probably going to light it up. I think Nick Boyd, along with the help of John Blackwell, who is also awesome for Wisconsin. Again, John Blackwell set the program record for Wisconsin for most points in a Big Ten tournament game. And then the next game, Nick Boyd put up 38 and beat that record in the win against Illinois in overtime. Blackwell, I think it was 35 or 36 points against Washington. And the very next day, Nick Boyd says, all right, I'll break that record. I'll score 38 in the OT win against Illinois. The confidence is supreme. The shot-making ability. He can drive to the hoop. He can slow down and hit the mid-range. He's so crafty. He can drill the triples when he needs to. Doesn't rely on the three-point shot, but when he has to uncork it, he can hit it. He can absolutely hit it. He shoots at 36% from deep. But like just the swagger on this kid, Nick Boyd, the senior from Garnerville, New York, cannot wait to watch him play. I got him at number 3, despite the fact that I got Wisconsin going out in the Sweet 16. All right, number 2, I'd be remiss if I didn't put the guy that's probably going to win the Wooden Award on this list here, Cam Boozer from Duke. And it's not just because he's the best player on the number 1 overall seed, but no, it's because Cameron Boozer is now going to have to go above and beyond. He's going to have to play out of his freaking mind if Duke wants to get to the Final Four. With the absence of their point guard, Caleb Foster, the absence of their center, Patton Gungba, Cameron Boozer had to do it all throughout the ACC tournament for Duke. And he did. He scored 23 points and had 10 rebounds in the win against Florida State. Had 24 points and 14 rebounds in the win against Clemson. And then in the tournament, in the title game against Virginia, only 13 points. He did struggle offensively, but he more than made up for it with 8 assists. Virginia kept blitzing him, kept double teaming him, triple teaming him. He had 8 rebounds, and he played some sensational defense. He's a leader. He's a warrior. This kid will play every minute if John Shire needs him to. Averaged 22.5 points per game to go with 10 rebounds per game this season and over 4 assists. Shoots at 57% from the field. And, you know, again, for a 6'9" freshman, it's not like, yeah, wow, he's shooting 57%. He just basically stands underneath the bucket. No. He shoots nearly 4 threes a game, and he shoots 41% from deep. So he's been the best player, like statistically, he's been the best player in college basketball all season. He's going to win the Wooden Award for most excellent player, in my opinion, most outstanding player. And the fact that he, now without his point guard, for maybe the whole tournament, without his center for maybe the first and second weekend. Cameron Boozer's got to do it all. And if we do get Duke versus St. John's in the Sweet 16, going up against Zuby Ejiofor, the Big East Player of the Year, I think St. John's is going to be a popular pick for some folks if they get past Kansas. And even if they don't, even if it's Kansas versus Duke, and so many people are going to be talking about Darren Peterson, or if they go up against St. John's and people are going to be talking about Zuby Ejiofor, like Cameron Boozer is going to remind everybody why he was the best player in college basketball this season. And I think he wills Duke all the way to the Final Four. And I think he's going to basically put up his season averages throughout the tournament. 23 points, 10 rebounds per game, dishing out assists, shooting it efficiently, playing great defense. Cameron Boozer, the son of Carlos, with his brother Caden also on the team. He is number 2 on my top 5 players who will ball out in March Madness. And then number 1, I got this team going to the national championship game. But I think what Kingston Flemings is going to do this tournament for Houston. You know, we had on Rob Doster earlier in the show, and he was talking about if there's a player I think can go on a Kemba Walker-like run. He thought it was Darius Acuff. I think it's the freshman Kingston Flemings from Houston. And I think he is already probably a unanimous top 10 pick in the NBA draft this year. He might launch himself into the top 5 with what the show that I think he's going to put on in the NCAA tournament. Only a freshman, not a big guy, 6'4", $190, your classic point guard. But man, his speed is incredible. His shot making is incredible. And I think he's just going to have a couple of 30-point games in some of the biggest games of this tournament that everybody's going to be talking about. Kingston Flemings, talking about this kid jumping himself into the top 5 of the NBA draft because he can light it up in a second. Now, he had 42 in a loss against Texas Tech. He's had a handful of 25-point games this season, and he dominated a very good Kansas defense in the Big 12 semis where he scored 21 points. He did get, Arizona did a tremendous job with him in the Big 12 championship game. He only scored 8 points. He shot 3 of 12, but I think Kingston Flemings, part of the reason why I've got Houston in the national championship game, yes, it's their defense. Yes, it's the 3-point shooting from Milos Uzan and Sharp, Emmanuel Sharp, and yes, it's Kelvin Sampson and that coaching. But when Houston finds themselves in those 65, 62 games where I think they might find themselves in the Sweet 16 against Illinois, or they'll be in the Elite 8 against Florida, you're going to need somebody to rise to the occasion. And I think in the biggest wins that Houston has in this tournament, and if they end up beating Duke, which is what I have them doing, it'll be because of their sensational freshman, Kingston Flemings. I think that's the name everybody's going to be saying by the time this tournament ends. And again, I've got Houston losing in the title game to Arizona, but I think Kingston Flemings is not going to produce anything other than spectacular greatness in the big dance. So there you go. There's my top 5 players who will ball out in March Madness. Anthony Del Orso, the 6th man off the bench for Arizona, who I think wins the title. Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan. Nick Boyd from Wisconsin. Cam Boozer from Duke. And Kingston Flemings from Houston.